Welcome in, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Give it a few more minutes, then we'll get started here with the watch list. Want to recap with kind of what we had going on last week, what we have coming up this week with some events that are happening, and then look at some individual setups that I like going into the week now that SPY has broken the daily downtrend line, looking for some continuation to play on some individual names now. So we'll give it a few more minutes, and we'll let some people jump in here, and we'll take it from there. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. About 2 minutes since we went live here, so everyone else can filter in as they do, and it's always recorded, guys. So if you have to drop or if you can't make it one Sunday evening, it'll always be on the YouTube published for you guys. So let's jump into it, right? So on Spy, we had been watching this. Basically ever since we came to this 437 level back in like mid October. We talked about this. We needed the breakout over 437, 438. When we got that, we would see a pretty substantial move to the upside, we thought. We tried to get a false breakout here earlier this past week, and then we finally got the big breakout that we were looking for. But we've got 4 touches on this line, and then we finally got a huge stick over that. And I want to start by pointing out on Spy what that breakout candle kind of looks like, because we were all watching Spy, right? This is kind of what we saw on Spy. If you can imagine this here, this is kind of what we were looking at. We didn't see anything. I was looking at this little flag formation. I said, hey, we're starting to flag here. We're consolidating. We could potentially see a pretty nice move here on Spy. And that's exactly what we saw, right? We saw a huge breakout over the 438 level. Anytime you see a massive bullish engulfing candle like that over a huge level that we've been watching for days, that typically signifies that like that is the breakout, right? Like that is the candle that is going to send us to that next level. Because it's such a powerful candle. We've seen this on Airbnb on a consolidation breakout. Seen this happen on PayPal. We've seen it happen on Amazon. I mean, we've seen this happen on a lot of different names. But whenever you see those big candles like that through massive key levels, that's your candle that signifies that it's the breakout. Like the breakout is on, the breakout has happened. And that's exactly what happened here on SPY. We broke it over 438, massive rip up. We pulled back to 438.20. And then from there, we made our way all the way to our next level at 440, got over 440, retested 440, and then went all the way to 441 at close. So that's, level to level trading. That's exactly what you'd want to see. And in this time, this is where, SPX ended up going, 600%. If we would have held all the way through, it was a 2,600% play there last week. So massive range. On Spy. I'm not sure that that we're going to get that again going into tomorrow with kind of the Moody's downgrade rating that came out. We'll see what happens there, but I think there's some really interesting individual names setting up for us that we can potentially play based on this huge breakout of a key level on Spy, assuming we hold in pre-market tomorrow, and assuming we hold it open, assuming we don't fall all the way back down underneath 438, right? If we fall underneath 438, then I think all bets are off and we'll have to reevaluate plan. But now that we've broken out, I'm interested to look at some upside setups. And the first one I'm going to be watching is Apple, right? So let's turn off the extended on Apple and let's just look and see where we're at here. We're coming back up to a big crucial spot at 187.63. More importantly, probably this 189 level, right? This is where we sold from. Really, we made a massive rip all the way up here at the end of August, beginning of September. We pushed all the way up to that 189.73, almost 190 level, rejected perfectly and fell all the way back down, to 174, right? And then eventually fell all the way down to 167. So again, on Apple, basically what we've got here, we've got the breakout back here in August, back to 189. We had the breakout here, right here, push breakout here. And now we're back up into that 186.57, potentially moving into that 189 level. If we break 189, then, I really do expect that we're going to see a move on Apple back up to this 197.69 level, and then potentially the 200 psych level. But if you see here, we've got a perfect breakout on Apple On the 4 hour time frame, if we go to the daily, I'm sure the daily is going to show us the exact same thing. Perfect breakout on the daily time frame. 1, 2, 3, 4 breakout, and then we go higher. The weekly time frame, that's a pretty strong weekly candle. Now, I don't expect that this next week's candle, that this week we're going to go all the way to 200. We could see a 3 bar up play. If I had to bet, I would bet that we probably consolidate within this week's candle. We might get a move up, we might pull back down, but I think we might get an inside bar on the weekly. And then from there, I think we have a chance to go higher. We'll see what happens, but Apple definitely has, my attention now, especially on the weekly, because you can see here where we have weekly resistance on Apple. Let me zoom in here so make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see it, right? Pardon my levels that I have. In fact, let's just turn these off for a second. But you guys can see here, we've got room on Apple right here. We've got room up into this, weekly resistance level. And then if we break this, I really don't have anything until we hit, that 197.70 spot on Apple. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see if we get that. We saw Microsoft make an all-time high. This could be the potential for us to see Apple, break 197 and go to 200 on the weekly time frame. That would be pretty, crazy to see. But wouldn't put it past them because, Microsoft did it last week. We could see the same thing. AVGO did it last week. We could see the same thing with Apple. It could be the theme, all of these tech names going and pushing all-time highs. Now, as we're talking about tech names, let's talk about NVIDIA because this is a big one. This one is another one that, if we look at the weekly candle, this weekly candle on September 1st of 2023 had a close of 485.05. This weekly candle had a close at 483.35. So we didn't get the highest weekly candle close, but this is the second highest weekly candle close that NVIDIA has seen as we push back towards all-time highs. So NVIDIA is a little bit more convincing for me to really make this move, especially if we get out of the gates really strong. And you can see in the after hours, we did push up to almost 484 on NVIDIA. If we take 485 on NVIDIA, when I flip these levels back on, let's go back down into the 30-minute. You guys will see. 487, 487, 488. Basically, I don't have anything until we get to 500. So NVIDIA is going to be a top watch for me. 500 calls early in the week, I think. NVIDIA, that's going to be a really top watch for me coming into the week. Because I think that could be a huge play for us. If the market pushes higher, if Apple goes, if QQQ goes, if SPY continues to push, NVIDIA back to 500 plus, I think makes a lot of sense. And like I said last week, while we're on the topic of semiconductors, when we talk about AVGO typically moves really well with NVIDIA, with AMD. This is a name that I think we can see, a very, very nice move into that $1,000 level on AVGO. So looking for this potential break of this bar. We did fall in after hours to 955. We closed the day on Friday at 957.52. So the way I would play this, I think, is if we break over the prior day high, if I put a level right here, right, this would be like a trigger for more price exploration. Basically, 959 is the level you're looking at here, right? We basically closed right within that. We break over that 958.95. I think we've got a chance to go get 1,000. That's a huge setup watch that I'm going to be looking at, especially if the market's rip. Same thing, right? Like if we get the same type of move that we saw on AVGO here, right, where we got open to close, essentially, we got a 4.6% move, $42 to the upside. If we get another, a 4.6% move, we're going to be over 1,000. So early in the week, NVIDIA 500 calls will be on watch for me, and then AVGO 1,000 calls are going to be on watch for me as well for continuation to the upside. The one risk in this is that we are in price exploration on AVGO. And so we don't really know like key levels to be playing on AVGO to that side. So we just have to be very, very careful, which is why you saw me scale relatively soon on AVGO here on Friday. Had I have held, this turned in, I mean, those contracts went from $55 to like $800. It was an insane play, but I just didn't know where these levels were going to be at. Now we have, some good levels on the 5-minute specifically. If we go into probably look at the 15 to give us some more concrete levels here, but like we can start to put some of these levels in here. Right, we can put a level there, and then we can also put a level in right about here. Right, I'll put one right in there somewhere on AVGO. So now we have levels to the downside to play if we do reject, 959 and fall back down. That's what I'll be watching on AVGO. Now, the one trade that I think is going to be really big for us this week, if the markets rip, is going to be Meta, right? Like I think Meta can be an absolutely insane trade because again, looking at Meta, looking at the daily time frame, look at this breakout spot that we're about to break, right? Let's zoom in here. Uh, we can see we've got horizontal resistance, right? If I were to turn these levels back on, and sorry, there's so many levels, but we can see this huge line right here, right? Like 330 is huge on Meta. We break 330, we're gonna have to go back here actually on the daily time frame. We're gonna have to go back and grab some key levels back from in here. And this is kind of a convoluted mess right here, it looks like. So what we'll probably have to do is um go into like the hourly time frame and look at some levels there. I'm just gonna put a level right here to give me something right in there, right? And the reason I'm looking at that is because we've got multiple wicks here. We rejected and then we fell down, push, rejected here, rejected here, rejected here, rejected there, rejected here, support, support, rejection, 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 right? So like 335.52 somewhere in there. If we break 330, like a move up into 335 is probably what I'd be looking at first. And we'll get some more levels coming in tomorrow. I'll make sure I have levels on Meta for us. But this is a very, very interesting setup on the daily time frame because of this being such a big breakout spot, right? So essentially, we break 330. The trigger for me, I've got a level at 329.05. The level for me to get is going to be 330. We get 330, and you'll know if we're going to get 330. We won't reject it, right? Like here on October 12th. Let's go back and let me show you guys what October 12th looked like from a candle perspective to show you what we don't want to see if we break 330 on Meta. I think this is pretty important to do, which is why I'm showing you guys. I want to go back and show you what it looks like. How do you discern on a daily time frame if we break a key level? Like, is it going to continue higher or not? We never truly know, right? But we're always looking for multiple points of confluence here, right? So in this instance here, the main reason, right, that I probably wouldn't have gotten long into Meta just yet is because we hadn't broken pre-market high at 330.62. So once we break that 330.62, once we get multiple candle closes here, then I think we can go. But you can see what happened here is like we closed, we went, pulled back down underneath, right? So that's that would have not been a no-go for me because I'm always playing the retest. Here's the candle close. Here's the high of day. We're not buying high of day. We're always waiting for a retest. Well, our retest ended up below our key trigger level at 329.05. So now we're looking for another candle close above, and we're just looking for another retest and for it to hold, right? So we get the candle close above. The next candle doesn't hold that level, and we fall back through, right? So we're always looking for a candle breakout and then a retest and hold that level, right? And we never got a retest and hold on Meta. We rejected that level every single time. So going into Meta now, right? As we look at Meta now, sorry, my levels got all messed up. Oh, we're all the way back in 2019 on the daily time frame. Sorry about that. Not sure why I did that. So what we've got though is we need to see a candle close above this level, right? Like we need to see a candle close and a retest of 329.05, and then once we get that, then we can probably trigger in to a long side setup. But you can see we pushed all the way to 329.31. We dipped down in after hours. We'll see what happens in pre-market, but this could be a huge opening drive trade for us over 329. The 340s or 335s early in the week on Meta, I think could be actionable, right? If we get a move like this on Meta, that would be absolutely insane. Kind of like we saw with SPY and with SPX. So that's what I'll be watching on Meta. Super interesting for me, upside on Meta. Now, the other one that's really interesting that isn't tech related, we've talked about tech a lot, is Boeing. This one's covered in the weekly watch list. And this one's very, very interesting to me for a few reasons, right? If you guys remember trading with me all the way back in 2020, early 2023, right? For basically the first 6 months out of the year, right? We came here first 7 months, really. We consolidated in this range, right? We basically were stuck between 196 and then we were stuck between 222. So basically $25 worth of range, somewhere in there, $26 worth of range, right? On this time frame. The weekly shows it even better on consolidation, right? Like you can see there's a lot of levels in here, so I apologize for that. But If I turn these levels off, you can basically see we were stuck in this big range right here. And then we finally broke out of it. And then we've just kind of cascaded all the way back down, right? But then we put in a gravestone doji candle here. Okay. So we put in this candle here that typically is a reversal candle in the bottom of a downtrend. And we got a really nice stick here on lower volume, but a big stick. And then we've got another candle pushing up here. The key level for me, and if I were to put a level right here, 197, I'm sure I've got one very close to that. I do, right? So I've got one right here, 196.77. You can see it on the weekly time frame, right? We held this level. 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 We held it and then we rejected it, right? So prior support now is resistance. Here, it's resistance here, it's resistance here. And this candle closed at 196.65. My key level is 196.77. So technically on the weekly time frame, it is continuing to be resistance. So if we get a move up over 196.77 or 197, I think BA is a very actionable play for us to take up to 200. And then if we get over 200, I think we can start to talk about BA making that move back into the 208 area. Over 208, 215 is that next target up. But all that to say, right, we need to see how we react here, because it might be better for us to be looking at this level at like 190, 197 proper, because of the 30-minute candles here, right? We close, we reject. Wick us over, we close over, we reject. We close over, we reject, right? So because I'm seeing this, I'm going to pivot my key level up to 197, truly 197, right? That's what I'm going to be looking at. So a move over 197, I'll be looking to trade up to the 200. If we get over 200, we've got 204 and then 208 to the upside. But BA is when this thing moves, it moves really, really well. And this could be the signal of us, making that move from, the bearish downtrend that we were in now, potentially seeing some type of breakout here, going from 197 to 200. So that's going to be a huge key watch for me. Now, last thing I want to talk about is Netflix, and then we'll talk about the earnings that are coming up this week. Netflix, very, very interesting chart to me as well, because we are pushing back up into this 448 area, potentially for a move back into the 455 zone, right? So as we look at Netflix's daily chart here, we can see, again, we're at a crucial point on Netflix, because this is a spot that in the past has rejected, as you can see back here, right? Sorry, it might be a little small for you guys, but we rejected on the daily here. We rejected here. We did kind of reject here, and then we finally got a candle close, and we got a massive stick all the way up, right? We got a huge stick here, earnings the next day after this candle, and then we gapped down on July 20th and fell all the way down, right? Here, earnings, we gap back up, right? And then we held this 400 level, and now we're pushing back up into the same 448, 450 zone that we had, we struggled with before. But when we got over it before, we saw a massive, massive stick on the daily time frame, a $25 day on Netflix, all the way up from, a low of 448.78, which is right where my level is at here, 448.23, to a high that day of 478.15, ultimately closing at 474.80 or about 475. So Netflix is going to be on watch for me this week. And I think the 470 calls are going to be what I'm watching, because if we get this move up, 455 is first. And then once we break 455, guys, I think we get, a straight moonshot into that 470 zone. And you guys know, when Netflix starts to move really well, it really, really moves. And for a while, I hadn't been trading Netflix, but I think, if you remember back in Q4 of last year, we traded Netflix a lot along with Tesla, because Tesla was so easy to trade to the downside in, December of last year. As we go into the end of November, mid-November, end of November, end of December, Netflix might become a name that, becomes very, very easy to trade and starts trading its levels really, really well. I do think that stocks, just like people go through, personality, like mood changes, I guess, in a little bit, if you will. There are certain times when I feel like I'll trade a name more than another name, because it's just trading its levels very, very well. And then there's times when a name will just chop me up, and it's like, hey, the levels they're not respecting levels. It's not as smooth of a name to trade as it was in the past. So I really think Netflix could be a huge opportunity for us this week if we can get a move up over this 448, 450 level, simply based on what we've done in the past, right? Just looking straight back at July 18th of 2023, we broke out over that key level and we got a huge move all the way up to 470. So that's what I'm going to be looking at on Netflix. I think this setup makes a ton of sense. When we look at a setup like BA, when we look at a setup like Netflix, when we look at all these other setups that are hitting these crucial spots, when we get this breakout, I think the move that we saw on Friday was huge, but I think this move can propel us even higher and can ultimately push us, on the indices much higher than where we're at, right now. So Netflix, huge, huge move that I'll be looking for this week and going into next week. So let's talk about the earnings because earnings season is not over yet. We've got more earnings this week. There's a few earnings on here that I think have the potential for us to play and you know, not necessarily play on an earnings, like play into an earnings lotto position, but more so play on a flush, based on liquidity of contracts and knowing that we've traded them before, right? So first off the bat is going to be Rumble. I think Rumble has the chance to be something, pretty cool from a flush perspective. The spreads are going to be a little bit bigger on that one than what we're used to, but I think that one could be a huge play from a flush perspective if it stays within its implied move. And that's going to be on Monday tomorrow after the close. Now Tuesday before open, Home Depot and Home Depot typically offers good opportunity for flush as well. And when this name moves, it's such a low beta stock name that when it moves just a little bit, I mean, contracts go absolutely crazy. I mean, you guys have seen how cat moves. When Rod of God caught out the volume on cat, we got like a 50-cent drop on it, and we were already up, close to 100% on that. So these low beta names, when they move just a little bit, you get a really, really nice, a nice move on contracts. So Home Depot Tuesday before the open is going to be an interesting one to look at. The other one, Target, is Wednesday before open, TGT. That one could be an interesting one. We've got TJ Maxx Wednesday before open. We've got XPEV Wednesday before open. And then Wednesday after close, we get Palo Alto Networks, PANW, which could be a huge, huge trade because we've seen what, these software companies have done. We've got Cisco after close on Wednesday as well. And then on Thursday, we've got Baba. Thursday morning, we have Baba. We've got Walmart. We've got Macy's. And then after close on Thursday, we have Ross. We have Gap. And then the last one that was on here that I liked. So I'm just looking for it. There was one more that I was interested in playing this week. Williams and Sonoma, WSM. That one typically moves really well after earnings as well. It's a low beta name also, so that one could be good. That's Thursday before open. So not a lot of big tech names this week, but we do have a lot of retail names this week. So it'll be a big retail week for earnings. I'll be interested to see what the guidance is on retail. And then Home Depot as well. I'm curious to see what they say based on what they're seeing from home improvement construction as it pertains to the housing market and the interest rate environment. I would expect they might lower guidance a little bit based on that, or it could be the complete opposite. They could say because interest rates are higher, people are staying in their houses and they're deciding to upgrade certain things in their houses. I don't know. We'll have to see what they say. But those are the earnings names that I'm going to be watching this week. But plenty of opportunities for us from an individual name perspective, plenty of opportunities for us on an earnings basis perspective. All around, I think we've got some really, really good opportunity. Now, the one thing I do want to mention as well as it pertains to earnings is the fact that we do have a lot of Fed speakers this week, right? So we've got a ton of Fed speakers coming in this week, and we've actually got Jerome Powell speaking twice. So I think we're going to see some big volatility on Wednesday and Thursday this week, midweek, based on the fact that Jerome is speaking twice. And if you look at the watch list that's posted on page 3, you'll see all of the Fed speakers. We've got Monday, we've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We've got a ton, right? We've got Daly, we've got Bostic, we've got Lisa Cook, we've got Barr, all of Harker is speaking on Wednesday. So we've got all of these Fed speakers. We've also got the jobless claims report on Thursday. We have international trade and goods services reported on Tuesday morning. So we've got some data that's going to be coming out as well. So just a lot of things to keep in mind this week. It's not just going to be a straight face ripper week, in my opinion. I think we are going to see some continuation though, because if we do look at that daily chart on SPY, I think that that tells us that, we potentially have, the juice to see 444. As long as we don't get an inside bar, 444 is next, and then over that, pushing up into the 450 area. We break 450, then it's back to 457, and then over 457, that's where we got the chance to really make that, that big move up into 467 on SPY for potential to, push back into all-time highs. So, but as you can see here, right, on the weekly, if we were to put a trend line here on the weekly, that's a clear breakout on the weekly. We'll see what happens. Lower volume on the weekly than what we've seen, but we'll see what we get here. Those are the targets that I'm gonna be looking for though. First is 444, then 450, then 457. If we break 457, right, then if you look at this line here, you can see if I keep this line right here, we've rejected this area. 6-7 weeks, we finally broke out over it. We went to 467, right? So rejected here, fell down. If we break 457, I do think we're going to go get all-time highs on SPY, and that would be quite a move to do into the end of the year. We'll see if it happens, but yeah, not sure if that happens or not. The last thing I want to talk about is Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has been getting a lot of talk over the weekend. And here is the daily time frame on Bitcoin, right? So let's turn our levels back on Bitcoin. Let's go back to the weekly, actually. Here we go. So I don't know why it gaps like this, but it's gapped up basically. Essentially, what I'm looking at again on Bitcoin is the 38K level, right? We want to see 38K. We haven't been able to get 38K. We came very, very close to it, but if we get 38K on Bitcoin, then I'm going to be looking for, Mara coin, all of those names that we've talked about before. But all of it hinges on Bitcoin really pushing up over this level. So what I'm going to do is like put a marker on Bitcoin and just create an alert over 37.5. That way I know, I'm going to delete this guy. I don't need that one. But when Bitcoin breaks 37.5, I want Webull to tell me that. And then I also want Webull to tell me when Bitcoin breaks 37,900, right? Simply because I know that it's going to be game on for a push to 38,000. So that way I don't have to look at Bitcoin. It can kind of do all the work for me. And then going in and looking at, names like Mara, we're still above that 918 level because Bitcoin is holding value. But I think if Bitcoin breaks 38K, Mara's got a chance to squeeze back to this 13 level, right? We pushed off of this before. We went to 13. We haven't been able to push off this level, on the daily time frame just yet. But you'll know when we do. We'll get a huge daily candle like that, and then we'll see continuation. So we'll see. We've got the Bitcoin ETF news coming in as well. We'll see if we get that, this week or maybe towards the end of the year. Okay, Robert says that he likes AA. This is Alcoa Corp. I've never traded this before. Hopefully you don't mean American Airlines. But this is AA. Let's take a look. Retested previous consolidation on the daily and put in a potential higher low. 100%, right? So like this is the consolidation I think that we're talking about here, right? We've consolidated here. Right, here's the consolidation pattern. Drop out of consolidation, fall down. And we've seen Alcoa do this before, right? Consolidate, drop, fall down. We've seen it try to put in a higher low here and then it reversed back down, ultimately kind of staying in, in another downtrend here, potentially in another consolidation pattern, right? Consolidate, drop, consolidate, drop, consolidate, drop. Now are we going to see more consolidation in a pattern like this on Alcoa? Well, we could just do this. Are we going to see something like this? Right. Sorry about that. Something like that. Or, are we going to see a, like Robert said, a higher high put in after this? Beta just means like, how does a stock move relative to the market? So when you think about growth names, CDP, you think about growth names, basically growth names are like high beta stocks. So they move a lot relative to like the S&P, relative to the S&P, relative to the market in general, right? Think about a name like Coin moves like 10, 20% a day. Mara can move 20, 30% a day. But a name like Caterpillar is not going to have a 30% day, right? Like unless something crazy happens, it doesn't move like that. It's a low beta stock. So the most you might see Caterpillar move is like 4% in a day, 5%, but that's huge because the options, the way the Greeks work on those options, they're not like those options aren't priced for those moves to happen, right? So when they happen like that, you see massive, massive spikes on the premiums. Whereas a name like, Coin or Mara or Affirm or Palantir or the growth names that will play, UPST, those names, typically move in a big range. And so it's just high beta versus low beta. And beta essentially means how does the stock move relative to the overall market. Lower beta names mean that they move in unison to the market, or they move, less than the market does. Higher beta names mean that they have larger kind of standard deviations when it comes to percent range movement. Yeah, CPI on Tuesday for sure. Oh, Robert was looking at the consolidation down here. Oh, so he must be looking at this here. You must be looking at this consolidation right here. That daily consolidation. Consolidate here and then break and push higher. Yeah. So that's a good point, Rob, because essentially what we've got here, yeah, you could be right here, right? Like, let's zoom in and take a look at this because like we talk about it on 5-minute timeframes too, but I tell you guys all the time, you can use the same exact thing on daily timeframes, right? The same techniques, right? Higher highs, and then potentially, right? Do we have a higher low right here? And so, to Rob's point, we want to bounce from here and make a new higher high, and then a higher low, and then a higher high, higher low, and go all the way back. But one thing on Alcoa that I'll say is interesting is we do have a daily downtrend here. So this is something to keep an eye on. If I were trading out AA, I would just be watching this consolidation. Well, not consolidation, but trend line, right? 2 rejections, 3 rejections, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rejections on this trend line. When we break out of this, then I'd be looking to trade these levels to the upside, right? So like I would put levels where the daily rejections were, right? Maybe here, and I'm just doing this quickly. This isn't how I'd find these key levels, precisely. But essentially what I'd be doing is, okay, when we break this trend line, I've got a target 1 here, I've got target 2 here, target 3 here, target 4 here. Right. So the most recent example I can think of where we did this was actually Southwest. Right. And here we go. This is what it looked like. Daily breakout, daily downtrend line, right here, downtrend, breakout. We've got target 1, target 2, target 3, target 4. And then we came all the way back down on these targets. And man, has Southwest came all the way back down. Southwest is I've got this alert set here, guys, because if you look at Southwest, if we break this level, really if we break the lows, this is huge on Southwest. You see here, right? The low here is 21.99. We hit 21.91. If we break this spot, if we get a daily candle close or a weekly candle close, I think Southwest has a chance to fall all the way back to 11.56. This is where you could long Southwest, knowing that this is a huge level here. Long, next year contracts, a month out contracts. If we break it, then you cut it, and then you can get short and trade this to the downside to 11. But I would think that this is a big bounce spot. I mean, we bounced here before and bounced all the way back to 40, right? So we basically put in 100% move here on the weekly. In 1, 2, 3 weeks time, Southwest went 100% on equity, right? So here again, we're back at the same level. Are we going to do the same thing in the next 3 weeks and go all the way back here to 40? Who knows? But this is where I always say to look at prior price action to see what buyers and sellers have done in the past. But as you can see here, this is a key spot. This 21 level, 22 level, right? Like right in here because rejection, 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 rejection. Bam, we break it and we go up to 26, right? But if you look here, like where did all of this come from? This whole entire run, came from this breakout, retest, push up, retest, and then finally go up to 22. So 11.56 is what my eyes are on if we lose this spot here. So that's what I'll be watching the downside, guys, on Southwest. But that's all I got for you guys this week. Short and sweet. Really, really good individual names that I think we can play. Some really nice setups that I think might set themselves up for us to be able to bank tomorrow. We'll keep our eyes out on CPI on Tuesday, and then Fed speakers Wednesday and Thursday, and potentially some more Friday fireworks on Friday. But Really looking forward to this week, guys. We've had a really, really good start to the month of November. And I think if we just keep focusing on finding these A+ setups, the high quality setups, looking for quality over quantity, like I always say, if we continue to do that, we're going to be just fine going into the Thanksgiving break, and then going into the holidays. I think everyone's going to be doing, really, really well. So I appreciate you guys being on tonight. If you have any questions on charts, let me know. I'm going to be working on some stuff, so I'll be at the desk. If you have questions on charts, drop them in the chart idea channel. If you guys want to look at charts, or you want to, do anything with the charts, drop them there, and we'll take a look at them. But appreciate all you guys being on. Really looking forward to live trading with everyone tomorrow morning. I will see you on pre-market huddle stream tomorrow at 9:15, 9:20 with all of the setups that we're going to be playing tomorrow morning, or at least that I'm going to be watching tomorrow going into the open. But like I said, tons of opportunity coming this week, guys, and really, really excited for some of the charts that are setting up for us. So I'll talk to you guys in the morning, unless you have any questions for me. And let's get after it this week. Make sure everyone gets a good night's sleep, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Peace out.